So if you missed last week, that's okay. You can go and check us out. That's what YouTube and Facebook and stuff is for. So I highly encourage you to go back and check that out. I want to say thank you. I really want to say thank you. Last week was a very difficult message for me to share. It was a very difficult message for me to prepare. And so many people reached out to me this week. People I don't even know. If you reached out to me, you're like, he doesn't know me? That's 50-50 chance. But so many people reached out to me this week or through the church this week and just giving me words of encouragement, giving me prayer, giving me Bible verses, and so many other things. Thank you. I really, truly appreciate the amount of love and support that I got this past week. And also, there are so many of us that are going through our own situations and that are going through these different experiences that we have and are going through a season of shaking or pruning or whatever you want to call that. And so it's comforting to know that we're not alone. And I think that you guys saw that last week with how many people were still standing or still going through something. And bravo, the altar prayer at the end of service last week was phenomenal. I've spoken before here on Sundays. I've spoken at a church back in Michigan. I've spoken with youth group, and you feel a calling to do that kind of thing, and sometimes it just falls flat, and nobody comes forward. Nobody else feels that compelling to be prayed for, to seek prayer, to pray for somebody else. And we were not lukewarm last week. It was fantastic. The amount of people that I saw coming forward for prayer, the amount of people I saw still talking after church was over and we were told you could go home, and there were still conversations and people lingering behind. It was really fantastic. So give yourself a round of applause to start the new year off that way. Yeah, come on, seriously, fantastic way to move forward and break through those barriers. Okay, so last week my message was shaken, not forsaken. We talked about my mission trip to Spain, getting to prune olive trees with Pastor Wendell. We talked to each other, we sharpened each other. I talked about how harvesting olives are done by shaking that tree so violently that fruit falls off. I gave you some facts about olive trees, how they die year after year, but they grow back stronger and stronger and stronger. And the similarities of how God's doing that, not to us, but for us. That he puts us through our own season of shaking. He puts us through our own season of pruning to get us on the path that he has laid out for us, because that is way better than we could ever do on our own. So today's message is called Stirred to Action. And so it's still in Spain. Still on the first day, we're at the Project Rescue House. We get there that morning. We get a little tour of the facility and how they do their processes and all the things. And they knew that we were coming, that there are going to be some men that were going to be there to help with some maintenance items. So I actually saved a copy of a task list that they gave us. And they had a bunch of stuff on there. And they were like, you guys are going to take care of this for us, right? And we're like, we're going to knock out everything on that list. And so the lady in charge, we will call her Isabella, she's walking me around the property and she's explaining the list. She's trying to work through. We have a language barrier. I don't know Spanish, but I'm in Spain, and she knows a little bit of English. And so we're kind of working through all that, and we have a translator who's helping us, and so that's fantastic. And she's just, walking us around and showing everything. And I just really loved and I admired the confidence that she had in being able to ask this of us. And just knowing that this team was coming in to support them, and whatever they asked for, we were going to do everything we could to meet that goal for them. And so I don't know how many teams have been there before us. I know the particular group that I was with, it was a first ever trip for them. And so I don't know how many other teams have supported the Project Rescue that was there, but just seeing the confidence to be able to ask for this stuff was fantastic. And to be able to explain what she wanted and the heart behind it. Like I said, we were pruning those trees because they have kids that are on site, and the kids were knocking themselves out on the low branches. And so like it was a safety thing. It was they looked bad or anything like that, or they were rotting, or it was just, so she had different things and asking us for that help to be able to do that. And so as you can see on that list, we're kind of walking around, and I said last week that the group decided that I was going to be in charge of the maintenance team at the house. And so as we're going through and I'm looking over this list, I'm thinking about the dynamics of the team, the different skill sets of the people who are going to be coming. And I know that on this first day, it's just Pastor Wendell and I. And I know that on the very last day, day 3, it's going to be the entire team, men and women. There's going to be like 25 people there. And so it's like, all right, there's some things that are, manual labor. There are some things that are just organizing and cleaning, and we all have different skill sets. And just thinking about the guys that we're staying with me, we have different skill sets. And we're going to need to, kind of task this out so that we use those skill sets to our best advantage to be able to get this stuff done. So, like I shared last week, obviously Pastor Wendell and I, we stick behind Pastor Steve, all the women that were there with us that day. They go off to do outreach things, which was amazing. And we're there for like 6 hours, just Pastor Wendell and I. And obviously we started with, we're going to prune olive trees. And so that was last week's story. This week, during lunch on this first day, I was really just thinking over this list and, kind of game planning out what the rest of the week was going to be. And I was really stuck on the very last thing on the list, put chairs together. And it's not that it was last on the list, but it was almost like it was an afterthought for Isabella putting it on the list. Like, oh yeah, by the way, we also have these chairs. She's like, but we would really like these chairs to get built. We would really like to have them. If you could do that for us, that would be great. Like, she overemphasized putting the chairs together. So I decided that I was going to put a chair together after lunch. And so that's actually where my message comes from today, is we're going to talk about an office chair. I know this might seem a little weird, but we're going to talk about a chair. Because this chair had such a big impact for me that I want to share it. I know that there's something for all of us to take from it. So write this out with me. So after our lunch, we go into the office, and they point to this stack of boxes over in the corner, and there's 3 boxes, and so that's where the chairs are. So I grab one of the boxes. I'm looking through all of them. Not a single one of them has ever been opened, which I thought was pretty funny, because they were like, we don't know how to put these together, and we could really use your help. Like, you didn't even open the box. But that's cool, whatever. So I grab one of them. We go back. I take it back outside, set myself up a little workbench, got a little table, and bring myself up a little chair. And I open this thing up. And it's an IKEA set, so this is the actual chair from IKEA. And it took some searching to find the chair. It was like last of like 17 pages, but it's there. And so you open this thing up, and it's literally like 73 pieces. This is ridiculous. How many pieces were in this box for this chair? Like, you look at it, it doesn't look that complicated. But every wheel was different, every leg on the bottom was different, and it was just, every single part of that was its own piece. And so I pull up the instructions, and how many people have ever bought something from IKEA? Show of hands. Handful of you, okay. So those lucky few, how the instructions come. I got a picture of the instructions too. It's not a single word on the instructions. It's all just pictures, because it's IKEA, and you can build this thing in 37 different languages. And it comes with that little Allen tool, and that's the only tool that you need to put the entire thing together. It's amazing. So I really actually kind of wish I had kept the little Allen tool and brought it back with me, but I didn't. I gave them to the staff. And so I'm laying everything out. And like I said, there's so many different pieces and these amazing instructions that they provide. And so I'm just kind of laying it all out. And I'm like, you know what? I've put together my own office chair before. Like, this shouldn't be that big a deal. And so I start putting this chair together. And Pastor Wendell, he's still pruning trees. And in this really kind of funny moment, we look over at each other. I'm sitting at a table. I'm underneath this big shade tree. And he's over there with those, pruning shears. And he's, working out. And we just looked at each other. And we kind of locked eyes. And I was like, man, I'm glad you're doing that. And I'm not. And he's like, I was thinking the same thing, brother. And I was like, that's so cool how God brings us together for these, moments, and we each have our skill set. For those that don't know Pastor Wendell, he's a former NFL running back. So Pastor Wendell is a big, muscular guy. And he was getting a workout pruning the trees, but I am not a big, muscular guy. I've got a mindset for maintenance and for assembling things and all that. So we were both in our elements, and we were totally fine with it. No bitterness, no any of that kind of stuff. Like, you're just going to sit there and build a chair. But, it was hot. I was in some shade. It was comfortable building the chair. It was a great area to do that. And so I spent about 45 minutes or so putting together this chair. Like I said, it was hot, and I was in some shade, so I was taking my time. And I was, occasionally glanced up watching Wendell cut down these trees still. So I get done putting together this chair, and I take it into the office, and there were two women that were in the office. Isabella, we're calling her Isabella. She was the boss, and then one of her staff, we're going to call her Gabriella. And so I bring in this fully assembled chair, and I put it down, and they sprinted to this chair. It was crazy. And Gabriella, she was fast. She was faster than her boss. And so she hops into it just before Isabella could, and she starts spinning around in the chair. And so Isabella comes behind her, and she's spinning her in the chair, and it's like they're little kids all over it. And it was so cool to watch this. And so they're spinning around a few times, and I was like, hey, there's a handle on the side so you can raise it up and down. And so Gabriella, she raises the seat all the way up, all the way to the very top, and she starts kicking her feet. And she's so short, her feet aren't touching the floor anymore. And so it was so funny to see this woman, this amazing woman of God, become an 8-year-old right in front of me. And she was just so excited and so joyful over this chair. And it was such a cool thing for me, because I was the only one that got to experience it. There were 3 of us in that office, me and the 2 women that worked there. And for me to be able to see the joy that a chair brought to them, that just fueled me for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. It was awesome. And so I go back outside, and I'm telling Pastor Wendell about how excited they were about the chair and the different things that, that took place in there and how they were playing with it. And it was just really, really cool. And so I really wanted to talk to you guys about the chair. And so I'm going to press pause and got a little sidebar. So I mentioned last week that we were on vacation for Christmas. We went to Aruba. If you ever get the opportunity to go, highly recommended. And so I'm actually writing this message. The reason I bring that up is I'm actually writing this message on the beach in Aruba. And so I got my phone out, and I'm doing voice to text into a Google Doc, and I'm literally pacing up and down the beach, and I'm just speaking on my phone. And this next image, it was a gorgeous day. There's a beautiful double rainbow. The top one's a little hard to see, but just an absolutely beautiful day. And so to be able to write out this sermon on the beach in Aruba, next to a rainbow, and with what the rainbow represents in his word, and it's God's promises to us, right? And so it was really cool. And so I gotten pretty far down the beach, and I turn around, and I'm starting to come back, and I notice that there's an elderly woman who has fallen right there at the edge of the water. It was kind of this bank to get back up onto the beach. And she could not get up. And she had another woman that was with her, and she could not help her get up. And so they were really struggling. So I jogged over there and the best way that I can with my bad knee. And I come alongside her, and I tell the other woman that was like, hey, I'll help her. And so I come next to her, and I put my arm around her, and I'm like, just let's get to your feet. Get your feet under you, right? And she was having a hard time trusting that I was going to be able to help her get up, because I don't know how long she was there, how long she was trying to get up, but she couldn't do it on her own. And she obviously she had some doubts that she was going to be able to stand back up. And the water coming up and, washing out underneath your feet and all that kind of stuff. So another guy, he comes along, he gets on the other side of her. She's still pretty hesitant, but we help her to her feet, and then we help her back up onto the beach. And I thought it was really cool, and like that was the encounter. That was it. That was all that was. This woman had fallen. Me and another individual, we helped her get to her feet and get back on the beach. But it was really cool as I'm sitting here writing out this message about how a simple thing can be such a big thing, and how God puts in our hearts and our minds to be able to act. And so I wanted to share that because I thought it was timely in the middle of writing this message and what this message is for that event to take place. And I don't know how long she had been there. I don't know where she went after that, and if it made any significant difference to her whatsoever that somebody came along to help her up. I don't know. But I do know that I got to help her, and that I received a blessing from it, because I felt pretty good helping her back up and getting her back up onto the beach so she could go on with her day. So if we're focused too much on being resistant to that change, we're focused on our own problems, we're focused on our own misgivings, whatever our situation is that we talked about last week, we're going to miss out on God's blessing and what He is stirring us to do. And so that's really what I wanted to talk about today. And I think we get stuck. We go on mission trips, we go on vacations, and we expect these big things to happen. We expect something, right? God, how are you going to use me? How can I glorify you? How can I build your kingdom better? How are you going to use me? And we constantly are looking for, at least I feel like this sometimes, we're looking for this big thing, and God puts so many little things in front of us that have such a huge impact that we don't even realize what they are, and we miss out on them. So whether it's the rainbow or it's a chair or whatever, it's being recognizing that the Holy Spirit and how He's leading us to go. So back in Spain, I pull up the second chair and I start putting together the second chair. But seeing how excited they were on the first chair, right? Because they had these very stiff, old, small office chairs that they were using. And obviously they were very excited about getting a chair that swivels and leans back and can raise up and down. And so, like I said, it fueled me. I was so excited. So I get the second one and I open it up. And now as I'm building this second chair, I start thinking about all the things that they're going to be able to do through the chair, right? Like, I don't know what the impact is, but God does. And so I start thinking about, and I start having conversations with God about what are they going to be able to do? I think about all the extra hours through, not like per day, but over the course of like a month, a year, that they're going to be able to work and provide the resources that they're going to be able to provide and the connections that they're going to be able to make, because now they're working from a place of comfort in this chair. And so that's what they do on the staff, is they're putting connections together, and they're offering resources for these women, these victims of sex trafficking, and they're going into homes, and they're going into brothels, and they're going into all these places, and they're doing what they have been called to do. And So I start thinking about all the things that can take place through a chair. Every resource that they can find, every resource that they can bring in to their office that they can then send out to these women. I'm thinking about the other teams who are going to come and support, the connections that the staff, that Isabella, that Gabriella are going to make through a chair. And it was really, really cool to have that moment with God and thinking about how such a simple thing could be that big thing that we're looking for. I have no idea what any of that is going to take place, but God does. And we were able to provide a better environment with the chairs for that to take place for them. And I thought that was really, really cool to be a part of. And it got me thinking, earlier in the week, all the guys stayed together in an Airbnb, and we were there with Pastor Steve. He's the founder of Global Passion Ministries, this organization that took us on the trip. And he did a devotional. On the first morning that we did devotionals, he went first, and he shared these verses in Jeremiah. And so Jeremiah 1:11, it says, "The word of the Lord came to me. What do you see, Jeremiah?" "I see the branch of an almond tree," I replied. And in verse 13, the word of the Lord came to me again. "What do you see?" "I see a pot that is boiling," I answered. "It is tilting toward us from the north." I love this reply. I see a stick. I see a pot. I don't know. What does that mean, God? God knows what it means. God tells him, if you go through the rest of Jeremiah 1, he tells him what that means, and he foreshadows what that means, but that's not for us to figure out. We want to control everything, and we want to be the ones planning and the ones figuring and the ones, okay, this is what that's going to do, and this is what we're going to be able to do with that, and we want to connect all those dots. A chair is a chair. A rainbow is a rainbow. But to God, it's an opportunity. It's a connection point. It's a promise. It's whatever it is that he wants it to be. And so we just have to get ourselves in a place where we do the thing that he's calling us to do, whatever that thing is. See, he knows every connection. He knows every resource. He knows every salvation that's going to happen through that chair. I don't need to know. I'm excited that I just got the opportunity to build a chair, and I get to see the joy and the childlike behavior on their faces and in their actions. And then God can do the rest for what he's going to do for them and through them. I got this verse a lot this week. So Isaiah 43, verses 18 and 19. "But forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do. For I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry wasteland." Several people sent me that this week. So I thought it was fitting to share it with you all today. Worship team, you can come on back. I think what God's calling us to do is to forget about the past. Last week I shared about all the struggles and all the problems and all the woe is me that I experienced coming back from Spain. But those are all things in the past. All the good things, all the bad things, those are all things I've done in the past. They're great, they're good memories, but they're memories. And they're character builders because it makes me who I am today, but that's still the past. He's doing a new thing. He's preparing us for something new, for something better, for something greater. And we have to be ready to walk down that path. Because if we're stuck in the mud when the river comes, we drown. And we're stuck. I think so many of us get into This habit of like, oh, I've done this. I did this ministry and I did this thing and I went on this trip and whatever. And you're stuck in that memory of what you used to do and not who you currently are. Who I currently am is somebody who is broken and somebody who is struggling and somebody who is fighting for what comes next. I don't know what that is, but I know I can't stay in the struggle. I can't stay in the pain because he's got something new for me coming. And so I've got to move forward. I got to walk that river. I got to search the wilderness. I got to see what comes next. I hope it's not 40 years in the wilderness. But that's for God to figure out. It's his timing. It's his plan. It's not mine. What I can do in the meantime is be open to the leading of the Holy Spirit and be open to what God has for me and to be stirred in my mind and my heart for what it is that he wants from me and of me. And so what I can do is I can lead with the fruit of the Spirit. Every day and every opportunity, they're all right there. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And it's the fruit of the Spirit. It's all of those things. I got some work to do on a couple of them, maybe more than a couple. But if we can demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit to every encounter, to every situation, the blessings that are going to come from that, the interactions that you're going to have from that, the conversations, the new character building, defining moments that you're going to have are incredible. And so it's just moving forward. So that's my challenge to everybody today. How can you demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit in your daily walk? This week, today. Can you build a chair for someone? Can you buy somebody a coffee in the drive-thru? Can you pay for somebody's breakfast who's sitting by themselves? That's a personal one that happened not too long ago. What can you do? What gift can you give somebody else? What blessing can you give somebody else that you then get to receive on the back end of it? The joy that you get to see in delivering that thing is pretty great. And it's also pretty good because it can distract you and it can shift your focus from all the trouble that you're going through and that you're experiencing. And you got to move past that woe is me to the how can I help someone else. So that's why my message is called Stirred to Action. Because I want everybody to be stirred to action and not bound to the past. It's what can we do to move forward? I don't want to see any of us drown. I've gotten pretty close. But I'm keeping my head up and I'm trying to move my feet. I've got one more thing, and then we're going to close out in worship. So in June, I'm going back to Spain. We have another mission trip. So if anybody feels stirred to go to Spain with me, come talk to me. Because it's an open trip. Anybody can go. We got the dates. We know roughly what the cost is. We have an idea what we're doing. I can point you in the direction of what we're going to go do. So whether it's this trip, they've got, Global Passion has other trips on the book. His Healing Hands has trips. It doesn't have to be a mission trip. What can you do at the grocery store today? What can you do at the drive-thru? What can you do in our own community, in our own backyard? Be stirred to action. I'm going to close in prayer. We're going to worship. And I want everybody to search their hearts and their minds about what your next step is and what you can do to shift your focus out of your own troubles, out of your own problems, and shift them onto God and what he has in store for you. So, Father God, I thank you. I thank you for this day in Spain. I thank you that you knew how impactful this first day at this house would be, God. That you took two seemingly just remedial tasks, one of cutting down some trees, some branches, one of building a chair, and you've turned them into a message not just for me, but for others. That you've shown us that you're for us, not against us, and that even though it may hurt, that even though it's changed and we may resist it, that from time to time you're going to shake up our lives. You're going to strip away the things that are not of you. You're going to strip away the things that are holding us back. But God, you also promised to walk with us and to light our next step and to be with us and to be for us. And so, Father, I thank you. Father, I pray right now that the Holy Spirit is moving in this building and through those who are going to watch this online later, and that there is a stirring in our hearts and our minds to act, to do something of you and for you, and that we can be the hands and feet that you've called us to be. God, I thank you for what you're doing in my life. I thank you for giving me the words to share to others, and I thank you the impact that will have on each and every person who hears these messages, God. I pray that we have a hunger and a thirst for you, and that we are seeking you out every single day, and that we are looking for opportunities where you can do amazing things, and that we are okay with just the opportunity and not what you're doing with it. So, Father, I thank you. It's in your holy and precious name that I pray. Amen. Let's stand and worship.